out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell.
Hello.
I'm George
Wrong
Harvey.
hand again.
He's Tom Fennell. And this is once again an examination of the week's news from my work that I do on at my blog, which is geoharvey.wordpress.com. I go to the internet every day and do searches for news. It goes up on the website, and then once a week on Thursdays, Tom and I get together and we talk about the previous week's news. And this week we're starting with August 13th, which was Thursday.
Yeah, and I'm at a loss here today because I don't have a mouse to manipulate the screens.
Right.
And I got a lot of nice pictures to show you,
Well,
but they're going
to be in the background.
Back
This, by the way, if you ever wonder why Tom looks like a deer in the headlights, it's because he's being an engineer. Any engineer, as you know, looks like a deer in the headlights.
And of course, there's my ADD that comes into play once in a while.
Oh, well.
I get fascinated by what we're talking about, and then I forget it's not on the screen.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But we're going to make do with what we can and go on from here.
Go on from here. Okay, so our first item, Thursday, August 13th, from Clean Technica. The average price of adding solar to a home or business has dropped by more than 50% in the last few years. According to Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, its 8th annual Tracking the Sun report says solar prices have fallen across America largely due to industry efforts to reduce solar soft costs, the non-modular project costs, as the government incentives taper off. You know, we've got to a point where the solar modules are a small part of the overall cost.
Yeah, the hardware is more expensive now than the solar modules.
And so, you know...
And while we're making progress on the solar modules, we're making so much slower progress on the hardware.
Yeah, and the soft costs, which are the costs of permitting and the cost of the solar company acquiring customers and advertising and things like that, are a very large part of the overall cost.
Well, you can see how they have fallen by the graph that's up on the screen.
Yeah, can you see the graph?
That's the installed cost. That's not the cost per kilowatt.
Right.
But they are related.
Yes.
But that's the installed cost, and it's gone down
a lot.
Probably much faster and much more than anybody would have ever predicted in 1998.
Absolutely.
When this graph started.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see what I had a couple of things here I wanted to mention.
Oh, good.
Well, they're talking about the potential for solar to survive a federal investment tax credit expiration. And they're saying it probably doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other thing they're saying is it simply costs less and less every year for homeowners and businesses to generate their own clean electricity.
Absolutely.
And that's a fact. And
it's a fact.
That's going to direct things.
And right now in Vermont, the cost of putting solar on your roof, the cost of the electricity that you get when you finance that is below the cost of utility.
And they just mentioned here, which is also a good development, low-income communities can look to community-owned and distributed renewable energy.
Right.
So if you can't buy a solar array, you can
get together with your friends and neighbors. Yeah.
And this is happening in Vermont. You can buy a 10% share. You can buy just a small share, and you save $50 every month.
I read an article. I don't know. It was about 8 months ago, but it was about a guy who had a place in his yard that he figured would be nice for solar, much more than he needed, and he didn't want to spend money putting solar in his backyard. But he went to his friends and
he got a few of his neighbors together.
Yeah,
and I heard that story.
And they were leasing a spot from his backyard, which meant that he basically got electricity just simply because he was letting other people use a little place in his backyard.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Moving right along.
Our next item is also from Clean Technica. Solar energy generation surged by around 153% over the last year in the UK, according to analyst company NAPSIS. The new report notes that while solar generation accounts for only 4% of the UK's electricity supply, that growth of that industry is causing oversupply to the grid, thus contributing to negative market prices during some periods.
So they're paying you to take electricity.
Yeah, but I find it hard to believe. And the reason I find it hard to believe is because solar power comes on at traditional peak demand periods.
Yeah.
And even in the UK, where you get far north in the UK,
they don't have air conditioning.
They don't have air conditioning. I lived in the UK briefly, and the idea of sundown being 9:30 at night and sunrise being 2:30 in the morning is kind of bizarre sounding, but it does contribute to more sunlight than most people in this country are used to. They're up
I remember being in Bergen, Norway.
Oh
the
dear.
first day of summer.
Yeah, right.
It didn't get dark.
It didn't get dark. Yeah, the sun just goes around you.
Well, it wasn't quite that, but you could still read a newspaper at midnight.
Yeah. Wow.
Couldn't see the sun anymore, but it was bright twilight.
Yeah. Okay. IT Business Net tells us that after a very successful debut in Northern California in March of this year, Nesta.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It is right.
Now here's a good
We've
name.
talked about this one already.
NEXBTL, Nexbl. That's the renewable diesel is now available to drivers in Southern California at retail stations. Propel Fuels is the first retailer in the world to sell essentially neat Nexbl. I'm not kidding. It's NEXBTL. Renewable diesel.
It's pronounceable in Finnish.
In Finnish. I don't believe it for a minute. The brand name, however, is Diesel HPR.
Can't pronounce that either.
Can't pronounce that either. Okay. Maybe we should escape from that.
This is interesting. We talked about this already.
Yes.
I'm reading this thing while we're talking about it, and I'm calling it Nestle.
Nestle, yes.
Nestle. But it's Neste.
Neste.
And it's a Finnish company, and they're making a lot of biodiesel. And I did do a little research. They're making it out of fresh vegetable oil.
Fresh vegetable oil.
It's not used from a restaurant. It's rapeseed oil.
Okay.
Which grows a lot of. There he is. Can you get us a mouse?
A mouse.
Yeah. We could.
Hi, everybody.
Here's Roland running around
Running
trying to get us a
across.
mouse, so we can get the.
Sorry to leave you stranded so long.
We left us stranded, and we've got a TV show going here. It's already
Well, I'll talk a
recorded for
little
7
bit,
minutes and
give you
30
another
seconds.
sentence to take away about this. It gives enhanced performance besides being cheaper.
Okay.
And they're experiencing a 300% increase in sales volume.
I'm not
because of this.
surprised.
And customers are providing great feedback. They like it, which both improves performance and reduces tailpipe emissions.
Okay.
So this is a win-win situation.
This is, and maybe you could address this, Tom. One of the things that I've read is that biodiesel is much kinder to an engine than the equivalent fossil fuel product.
Well, I can't really say that I'm knowledgeable about that.
Okay.
I know that, for example, you can use biodiesel in a 2008 Volkswagen GTI.
How about
But you
that?
can't use it in a 2009.
Uh-oh.
And I don't know why. There are people here that could answer that, but I haven't
Okay.
found the answer.
All right.
But it has to do with the sophistication of the engine. There's computer-controlled stuff
Yes.
in the newer engines.
Yes.
And I've always thought biodiesel was totally interchangeable with petrodiesel, but it isn't.
Not quite.
And
This,
I don't know the difference.
It reminds me a little bit of the Prius that I used to have, which when we got to a point where I couldn't get straight gasoline anymore, but could only get 90%
You
gas,
were losing
10%.
performance.
When they put 10% ethanol in the gasoline, I lost 10% of my mileage. And literally, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I in those days, I wrote an article on how to drive for best mileage for Home Power magazine, and I was accustomed to paying a lot of attention to mileage, so I'm quite sure that that's what happened.
Well, I'm looking back cynically on that. That was a boondoggle. That was
It still is a
yeah,
boondoggle.
it still is. I mean, it's helping Archer Daniels Midland, but it's not helping much of anybody else.
It's helping farmers who actually, I think, are deluded when they say that it's helping them, because they could be growing other crops on that property.
Yeah.
And the other crops include things like switchgrass, which can be made into other biodiesel. So why are we making ethanol? And
switchgrass could be used for ethanol.
Yeah, and that's true. And one of the things also that I've read is that the cost in terms of energy for making biodiesel, I mean not biodiesel, but ethanol, is about 1 gallon of gas per gallon of ethanol. So this is a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose situation. It's a boondoggle. That's right.
It was presented as a boom, but it's not a boom. It's a boondoggle.
Yes. Okay.
The next one's interesting. This is very interesting. I'll pull this one up. This could be a game changer.
Okay. This is an interesting, and you can see the picture in the background there, I think. Ask electric vehicle drivers if what they don't like about electric car experience, and the chances are that most of them would say charging their vehicles away from home is their least favorite thing. Now, researchers in England are exploring the possibility of making wireless charging available on some motorways, the English equivalent of our interstate highways. This is from Clean Technica.
So this is a pilot project we're seeing now, in a green lane you see on the left.
Yeah, which is not the fast lane in this case, it's the slow lane.
Well, it's Britain. They're on the wrong side of the road over there.
That's right. They get up in the morning and remind themselves.
Here,
they get up in the morning and remind themselves every day that they have to drive on the wrong side of the road.
But the interesting thing about this is you don't have to be stopped to recharge your car.
Right.
You can recharge it while you're driving, and that's why I say this is going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
You're not going to need gas stations anymore.
You also are not going to need a horribly big battery either. If you've got a 10-mile range, that means that you could probably get from where you are to where you want to be and back. If you've got 50 miles of open road and it's got this stuff in them.
You got more juice in your car than you had when you started.
Absolutely.
And they have figured out, I'm sure, how to charge you for it.
Well, I'm sure they have. They'll charge you through their road tax, I think.
Well, they got a way.
Whatever it is, they'll do it. Okay, next item.
Moving right along.
Clean Technica.
But remember this one, because this is going to spread. What you're seeing here is a pilot project.
You've heard it from Tom. He knows. Clean Technica again. India's Ministry of New and Renewable Energy shared. Whoa, what is that?
I got a mouse. Let's see if I can.
Why don't you try? Oh, wait a minute! It moves things. Why don't you put it on me? See if I appear on the screen. Wow, there I am. Okay. We've got a real show here, but I think we're just going to keep. It's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Roland Boyden, who is the.
There it is.
Where's my hand? There
it is. He is the force behind this show.
Oh yeah, we could work without him.
He's
quite an asset.
He is an asset. Yes, that's right. India's Ministry of New and Renewable Energy shared annual capacity addition targets for the National Solar Mission. India aims to have an installed solar power capacity of 100 gigawatts.
That's a lot.
By 2022. That's 7 years.
And I think they're on track.
Including 40 gigawatts of rooftop solar capacity and 57 gigawatts of utility scale. I'm not sure where the other 3 gigawatts comes from. Earlier this year, when it had 3 gigawatts installed, it increased the targets to those levels from a target of 22 gigawatts by 2022. So they've multiplied their target by more than 4.
Well, they're moving by leaps and bounds. Now, this picture is up on a screen. When they built it, was the largest solar array in the world.
Yeah.
Now I think it's the second largest. The largest is being built
in India,
about 10 miles away from this one.
There you go.
And I forgot what that land was, but it wasn't farmland. They're not.
Well,
there's farmland right up to it, but they were using it for something else. So.
Maybe it was a golf course.
And they're putting it on. Yeah, maybe it was.
They're
yeah.
doing that in Japan. I haven't heard about it.
They're putting this stuff on canals. They're putting them in parking lots. They're putting it on people's
I think
houses.
the idea of putting it over on ponds is very
That's
interesting
brilliant.
because you get a big increase in efficiency because
you're cooling it off.
you're keeping your solar panels cool. Okay, we should
Moving right
probably go ahead. Our next item is from Cleveland.com. Ohio and 14 other states, led by West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrisey, Attorney General Patrick Morrisey, this afternoon asked the D.C. Federal Appeals Court to block the U.S. EPA from putting its Clean Power Plan into place until the courts decide whether the EPA can legally force states to limit CO2. This is unusual because a suit has not yet been filed on the legality of the EPA enforcement, and I will tell you, I think this whole report is bunk.
Well, they're fighting back.
They are fighting
They may
back.
not win, but they have to fight.
I don't
By the
know-
way, Morrissey's a Democrat.
Yeah, well, what can I say? He's in Ohio too. The problem that we've got here is, and I just finished the current issue of Green Energy Times. It just came out. I wrote an article about this, and
Okay.
it's not about this particular fight. It's about the status of the Clean Power Plan, and the problem here is, in 2003, the EPA determined that it had no authority to regulate CO2. And when they announced that determination, they were immediately sued by about 14 states, a different 14
Different
states.
14 states, yeah.
But it was
We talked about that.
Yeah, we did on the radio. The suit was called Massachusetts versus the EPA. It went to district court in Washington, D.C. The district court decided that the EPA did have the authority to regulate CO2. The EPA appealed that to the Supreme Court, which decided that the EPA did have the authority to regulate CO2, and sent the case back to the district court, which then made the official U.S. government court system pronouncement that CO2 emissions are dangerous and have to be regulated. So the EPA was under basically a court order saying, you've got to regulate this. And they did, and immediately got sued again in 2010. It took them a couple of years to come up with the regulations. And that suit, which was called the Utility Air, I've forgotten what it is, versus the EPA, was brought by a different set of utilities and so forth who were looking for a way to prevent this thing from being implemented. That went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court had a mixed decision there, but it did decide that the EPA has the authority to regulate utility scale and industrial scale carbon dioxide emissions. So basically, I don't know where these people are coming from that they're planning on preventing this thing from being put into play. It isn't going to be in place until 2022, as I recall.
Yeah.
I might be wrong about that. So they're trying to block something that from passing into existence that wouldn't pass into existence for another 7 years anyway, before it can be tested by the courts. No, it's already been tested by the courts. They're going to have to come up with some idea that they didn't have before and present it to the Supreme Court to get the Supreme Court to reverse a decision that it's already made. I don't see how they're going to be able to do that.
Well, they're up against a different force that is going to totally make all of this meaningless anyhow.
Which is?
The cost of getting coal out of the ground.
Oh, boy.
Is not getting cheaper.
Yeah, it's not getting
And
cheaper.
It's the Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio coal field
Right.
is about to become obsolete for that very reason.
Well, my guess is that this is a political move.
It is.
That the
absolutely.
people who are doing this know that they don't have any
absolutely.
chance of doing this, but they want to be able to go to their constituency and say, elect me again as Attorney General because
Absolutely.
I'm on your side.
That's exactly what it's all about.
So I think in essence, I think it's basically a fraud.
Yeah.
Okay. The
Most of
attorneys,
politics
the
is
attorneys
these
general
days.
are committing a fraud at taxpayer expense.
Yeah, let's move to South Africa.
Oh, there we go. South Africa. Daily Times. I don't know what kind of Daily Times it is. That's just the name. Saturday, August 15th. Fears are growing in South Africa that agreements to build nuclear power plants will be made behind closed doors without necessary public scrutiny. Among those voicing concern, two government sources say the Treasury is not being included in procurement discussions despite the massive budgetary implications of a project that may cost as much as $100 billion.
I'm glad
US.
stuff like that doesn't happen here.
No, never. No.
There's a picture of a South African nuclear plant. Pretty big plant. Pretty
Yeah.
big plant right down there.
Yeah.
This one obviously is existing.
Well, I don't know what to say about that, but it strikes me that, whenever you've got more than a few $1 billion, you've got somebody who's going to try to get it.
So somebody's going to get a piece of it. It always
That's
happens.
right. That's what they do. They do that professionally, as a matter of fact. Wow. They very often know what they're doing. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica. Sun Edison announced it will partner with Dominion to create a joint venture around a 420 megawatt Four Brothers solar project in Utah, and I can't read that without thinking about two guys from Harrison.
Four brothers from Utah.
Right.
This is a picture of Utah. It's not going to be there, but this is Utah. It's kind of pretty.
It is indeed. The project is currently being developed and constructed by Sun Edison, which is expected to become it is expected to become fully operational by mid-2016. Dominion will invest approximately $500 million to acquire 50% of the cash equity and 99% of the tax equity. And that's from Clean Technica.
Interesting little sideline here.
Yeah?
The Four Brothers is already contracted under a long-term power purchase agreement
Right.
for this thing
Yes?
with Pacific Corp,
Okay.
which is a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway.
Is this the thing that they were getting that super low price for solar power? There
It's
was
possible. I couldn't
Yeah.
couldn't verify that.
they
but
had a
we
price
talked about that.
They had a price that was under 4 cents per kilowatt
Yeah,
hour.
yeah.
And even when you throw when you remove the potential to make money from the incentives, the price that they had was about 6.1 or 6.2 cents per kilowatt hour. That's very competitive. Competitive with natural gas.
Absolutely.
This is even in a place where they have natural gas, and I don't know that they have it in Utah. They might. Never can tell. Pipelines.
They
Might
probably
run.
got pipelines, but
Yeah.
I don't ever recall seeing natural gas coming out of the ground in Utah.
Oh, I'm not thinking out of the ground.
Yeah,
I'm thinking pipelines.
Yeah.
You got to be near the pipeline. There's no natural gas pipeline near Brattleboro, so we don't have natural gas, and it would cost a lot of money to get the pipe.
There's people planning it right now.
Yeah, I know. Don't disturb my sleep. Okay, our next item is from PV Tech.
A little bit closer to home.
Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker and members of the Bristol Community College revealed the largest solar canopy in New England on Friday, a 3.2 megawatt installation that covers 800 parking spaces over 2 hectares of land on the college's Fall River campus. The installation will churn out, I don't know how solar churns, but 34 million kilowatt hours of energy annually and will save 1.75 million over 20 years.
It's interesting what this is. This is basically over the parking lot.
Yeah,
There's parking underneath it,
yeah, keeps your car
and
cool.
it's 2 hectares. That's 5 acres.
Yeah,
That's a lot of parking lot.
That's
They-
a lot
they
of parking
mentioned
lot,
it's
yeah.
800 spaces.
800 spaces.
Now, this particular picture you see there is not there because it's not built yet, but that's basically what it's going to look like.
Right.
Parking in the shade there.
They got it made in the shade.
Yeah.
You know,
Now, I don't know
can
what
we
they're
say?
going to do in the wintertime when there's snow on there and there's icicles, but
Yeah.
they got, I'm sure, somebody's got that figured out.
Yep. I think they've got it figured out. Okay, we're up
Back
to
to
Sunday.
you.
Up to Sunday, August 16th. Climate change makes some organisms go extinct but increases others. According to the author of a newly released study It is, quote, "It is not so easy to determine the number of wild boars in Europe," end quote. However, in recent decades, more and more boars have wound up as roadkill and in hunting bags, a strong indication that the local populations are growing and gaining ground. This from Nature World News.
There's a picture of some boars up there. They're cute.
Well, those
These little baby
guys
ones.
are cute. Let's
Yeah.
look at the big one. Do you have
Well,
the big one down
they're
there
in
too?
here too, yeah.
You
Yeah,
can
here
go
we
down and there is a guy. And you see that guy on the left?
Yeah.
He is the beneficiary of climate change. If you ever want to know who benefits from climate change, there he is.
Well, the mechanism that's happening here is during the wintertime, they use up a lot of their energy
Right.
just to keep warm.
Yeah.
Okay, and with warmer winters, they got more of that energy left.
Yep.
And that energy translates into more pigs.
Yeah, and they'll grow bigger, and they will chase people around looking for handouts. You know. What can I say? Okay.
Okay, which one?
Modern Readers tells us this. According to the Task Force on Extreme Weather and Global Food System Resilience, worldwide food shortages, dramatic price increases, and volatile market conditions may take place every 30 years in about 25 years from now, instead of taking place once a century. I thought that happened
It's happening 3 times as fast.
3 times as fast.
And it's helping the boars, but in some parts of the country,
It's not helping
this is
people.
corn.
That's
Nobody's
corn.
going to be eating that.
Nobody's going to be eating that.
all
There's
dried
not
out.
much you can do with it. Maybe you could cut it down and,
Well,
and put it in a
what they would do.
biodigester and turn
well,
it
you
in.
could do that. They're going to probably feed it to cows, but
I don't know that I'd want to eat that. Oh man, what a mess. To cover the population increase, food production may have to improve by over 40%. You know, that's
60%.
60%. I'm sorry. Thank
Yeah.
you, Tom. I read it wrong. I don't know why I did. Maybe I need better glasses. Or maybe I need to wear the glasses.
That would help.
Monday, August 17th, renewable power is becoming a political force in Australia. A political force. Australian Solar Council launched its latest campaign on the weekend, urging constituents to, quote, vote solar, end quote, in an upcoming by-election in Western Australia, as the coalition government has repeatedly broken promises, and they have, on renewable energy. A recent poll found the coalition would lose on the back of a 7.5% swing. This is from Renew Economy, and I have to tell you that 7.5% swing is the best figure for the coalition could come up with out of the series of figures that I've seen.
This
They are
article's
in
about
trouble.
only one small town.
Yeah.
But this is spreading because people are
People
kind
are
of
upset.
disgruntled with
They are.
it.
They are disgruntled. And Tony Abbott, who is the Prime Minister of Australia, is ruling as though the only thing that really mattered was how much he and his friends like what's going on. And no other contrary view is worth consideration. So,
They call him the unpopular coal-loving prime minister.
yeah, well,
Which, according to some of the stuff we've talked about, is right on the money.
absolutely. Now, from Process and Control Today, we have this item. Scotland's ambitions to become a zero-waste nation were today bolstered by the start of construction on Viridor's new £177 million energy recovery facility, that's money not weight, in East Lothian. The site will process 300,000 tons of post-recycling residual waste per annum to generate 30 megawatts directly to the grid, enough to power 39,000 homes, and it will also offer up 10 megawatts of heat.
Now, they sneaked that one in there, but that's important.
The heat?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's raising the efficiency of this whole operation.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
And it's happening all over Europe, and we're just not doing this
Yeah.
in this country.
And this is an interesting thing too, because this is post-recycling residual waste which is being processed. I'd really like to see a thorough examination of how this is done and what the byproducts of the whole thing are. And I didn't see that.
I didn't really have a chance to digest this article.
But
so I
it's,
can't
you know,
answer
this
that.
business of zero waste is interesting. Sweden in some towns in Sweden,
They're importing waste.
They're importing waste from other countries so they can process it
Yeah.
and get the value of the fuel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm looking at this picture here. I'll pull it up.
Okay.
Yeah, how come the chick doesn't have a shovel?
Well, what can I say? Would you make her work? I don't know. My glasses aren't good enough for me to see what's going on in there.
She probably doesn't know that either.
Yeah, well,
Gender discrimination or what?
it might be. You never can tell. Okay, Tuesday, August 18th, a new study has found
this
that...
is scary.
Oh, this is bad. Put that on the screen there. This is industrial pollution in China. This is just so you can focus on this while I'm reading this. A new study has found that China's air pollution is linked to the death of over 1.6 million people a year, or 4,400 people every day. The study was carried out by Richard Mueller and Robert Roda, researchers at Berkeley Earth. They mapped concentrations of 6 major pollutants across eastern China using data from China's National Air Quality Reporting System. This is from a publication called The Next Digit. And in case anybody is interested, the United States has a population that's about, what, a quarter of China's?
Yeah, that's probably a good guess.
And the number of people dying in the United States is probably a quarter of the number dying in China from the same
It's
causes.
probably less, because what this was saying is virtually all of the Chinese air is polluted.
Oh, the China...
Virtually
yeah.
all of the Chinese air meets our requirements for hazardous
Yeah.
air. And it gets worse from that. That's the best air.
Yes. Well, I had a friend when I was very young, which I am no longer, but he was very old. He was also a toxicologist. And he was one of the best toxicologists in the country. He was the head of product safety for Colgate-Palmolive. He was the head toxicologist for Philadelphia County. And he told me he had not actually conducted the study, but his guess was that fossil fuel pollution, and I think it was specifically petrochemical pollution, in the United States was killing about 465,000 people a year. And
Wow,
that's a lot. Now, you got to bear in mind...
Nobody hears that figure.
No. You
heard it
see
here,
that,
guys.
yeah, you see that thing of smoke and so forth. What he was talking about was not just smoke, particulates, things of that nature leading to asthma and emphysema and things like that. What he was talking about also was the fact that if you got an oil delivery in your house, there's a smell of oil, and that smell is petrochemicals, pollution in the air. And he said that stuff is strong carcinogen.
Is it really?
That's what he said. And people were dying of cancer as a result of this. And there were other problems too, problems with processing waste in your body, which would mean it has an effect on your liver. It has an effect on your kidneys.
So the guy who delivers oil is in...
He said that he came across one guy who was careful, and the guy wore a mask and wore gloves. And, he asked him and said, "Why do you do that?" And the guy said, "That stuff is bad."
I believe it.
Yeah.
Interesting takeaway here.
Yeah.
Pollution was at a hazardous level, which we talked about. Every hour of exposure reduced his life expectancy by 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
That's the author of this article.
Oh my gosh. But the World Health Organization, I think it was the World Health Organization, said that air pollution in the European Union, which is, as you know, Western and Central Europe, and it includes France, where they have their electricity produced by primarily 75% nuclear. Air pollution in Western Europe was reducing people's lives by an average of 9 months. Now, just think about that, because the United States conditions...
This is everybody's life.
Yeah, the conditions in the United States, particularly in the Northeast, are similar to what they are in Western Europe. And so this means that the average person in the Northeast, Vermont, New York, you name it, is probably losing a Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthday, flowers in the spring,
As
colors
an
in the
average,
fall.
yeah.
As an average. 9 months of not terrible quality life, but good quality life, because it means that the end of life and the medical problems come sooner. So we're losing. We are losing our.
Just the years you're losing. Some of those years are non-productive.
Yeah. And so
We don't even think about this stuff.
we don't think about it very much. We don't think about it enough, and we should be I think thinking very carefully about air pollution and what it does to us. And this is a problem that's been going on. You undoubtedly remember. I certainly remember. Gary, Indiana, Pittsburgh, places like that, at a time when there were steam engines going through.
Oh yeah.
And what
I
a
don't remember
wreck.
steam engines in Pittsburgh, but
I don't remember them in Pittsburgh, but I do remember them in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And we had steam engines going through,
Oh,
the
I'm sure.
area
I
where
know
I
we
lived.
did. We had when I was a kid. There was still.
And on top of everything else, they would occasionally set fields on fire. What can I say?
A minor thing.
Oh well, let's go on to something that's happier. Okay.
Yeah.
Is
This
this
is
next one?
happier, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it is.
It's happier than everybody dying of air pollution. Angie, I betcha I come fairly close to pronouncing
Better
that
than
right.
calling it Engie.
Yeah, I think it is. The French utility giant, formerly known as GDF Suez SA, is said to have plans to sell more than $1 billion of stakes in Asian coal-fired plants. Why do you suppose they want to get rid of them? Engie is a sponsor of the Paris climate change talks later this year, has shut gas plants, capped coal-fired installations, as the chief executive officer, Gerard Mestrallet, steers the company toward renewable energy sources.
Well, this Engie, as you say it, is a very large company.
Why don't you get that centered on the... Oh, there you go.
There we go.
What do we got there, Tom?
Well, that is one of their plants. It's in Indonesia.
Okay.
And that's one of the plants that's for sale. And
Okay.
It's a coal-burning plant, and it's a rather large one. As you can tell, it's got 4 stacks.
Yep.
So it's a biggie.
Yeah.
And they're operating all over the world, and they're getting rid of their coal.
Yeah.
That's this message here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Should we keep going?
Why not? Can't dance.
Sea News Renewables. I gave up dancing a long time ago. I shouldn't have. I should have danced and danced. Okay. RWAG has officially commissioned a power-to-gas plant. This is something I find fascinating. Rated at 150 kilowatts as part of a system linking together a supply of electricity, natural gas, and district heating in the north.
District heating again.
Yeah, in the North Rhine-Westphalia area. The power-to-gas plant turns unused renewable power into hydrogen, which is then injected into the natural gas network for fuel. The gas
And
will,
it's a storage ploy.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It will be used as at a cogeneration plant. This is something that people have to understand. And it's true, people think of, well, wind and solar, they're intermittent, So we need to have battery backup. I got news for you, gang. We need to have battery backup for fossil fuel plants because they're inflexible.
Yeah.
When you have
Well,
too
we
much
need to
power.
have some kind of backup.
Yeah.
They got rotating backup.
Yeah, they do. They have
Running that aren't generating.
That's right. They have that kind of thing going.
You never hear about that.
Yeah, and places like the Northfield Mountain pumped storage, which can back up any of this stuff. Everything needs backup. Everything.
Yeah,
And-
basically yes.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
And this is backup. This is a thing where when there's too much power, what do you do with it? Well, instead of throwing it away, how do you throw power away? Well, the way you throw it away is by paying people to take it. And that's kind of a clunky system because they got a come-on
If you're in
system.
business, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. So what do you do instead is you make something. Almost anything is better than making nothing. And in this particular case, we're talking about making hydrogen. And hydrogen can be put into the natural gas lines and burned as fuel. So you can make money on it.
And it doesn't pollute.
And it doesn't pollute. It makes the natural gas that you got in the system. It does make the natural gas a little bit different. So
Yeah.
you have to be kind of careful about how you do this. You want people to have their natural gas burn as it normally would. But nevertheless, it is less polluting and there's no carbon emissions associated with it. So there you
One of
go.
the cleverest ways of storage that I've been hearing lately is in use now widely in our American South.
Yeah.
They're making ice.
They're making ice. There you
They
go.
use the ice for air conditioning in the day.
Right, absolutely. When you've got too much power at night, make a bunch of ice.
And you can buy one of these things that's the size of a refrigerator and put it in your factory.
There you go. And ice, electricity is hard to get rid of. If you've got too much and there's no way to get rid of it, you've got a problem because you could burn something up by accident. But if you just make it into ice, you can take that ice and dump it on the lawn if you have to.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of people
But,
doing that.
That's right. It's you use it for your air conditioning the next day, which reduces the load that's required at peak load period. Okay, are we done with that?
Yeah, we're done with that
Okay.
one. We're moving to
Clean
California now.
Technica. In a recent survey, while 71% of Southern Californians queried stated they were highly interested in getting an EV, an additional 13% apparently already had one. Now, that's not bad, but all things considered, that means that 16% of those asked neither had one nor were interested in getting one, according to results of a poll.
This is an interesting survey that they did there.
Yeah,
And
this is from
they're
Clean
trying to find
Technica.
out why people wanted them and why people didn't want them.
Yes,
And as we've already mentioned, some of these objections are being overcome now as we speak.
yeah.
The perceived cost of purchasing an EV, well, they're coming down.
They are actually
the Chevy
considering.
Bolt right now, not the Volt, but the Bolt, which is due, I think, in January.
Yeah.
Is going to be affordable by anyone. I mean, that's
Yeah.
their goal. They want an affordable car.
I looked into the smart car. Is that the name of it? Smart car.
Yeah, with the little tiny Mercedes.
It's a little
Yeah.
Mercedes. Well,
Two-seater.
It's a two-seater. It's one of those cars that you get into and you discover the inside is bigger than the outside. But you can get those things on a fairly low lease, $130 some odd dollars a month.
That's cheap, yeah.
But you have to lease the battery separately.
Oh.
And the battery is about $80 a month. So we're talking about still 210 or 220 or whatever it is. And the thing has a range of about 70 miles or 65 miles. And so when you consider that you're spending about 3 cents per mile to drive the thing, that's the equivalent of a very...
3 cents a mile.
Yeah.
So
This is a
you're
considerable
saving quite a
saving.
bit running,
That's right.
running around with one
And
of
if you're
those.
not driving long distances, that's a perfect thing. And if you are driving long distances occasionally, you can rent a vehicle.
Well, I don't know what the statistics are, but I bet a very large percentage of automobile use is used by one person
Yeah.
going to work,
Yep.
less than 70 miles,
Yes,
and the car's empty the rest of the day.
that's right. That's right.
Now, there's a couple of other things that are deselectors for electric vehicles that
Yes.
we've already talked about are being overcome. Limited number of charging stations.
Yes.
Well, if they've got those chargeable roads, they're not going to need
Yeah,
recharging
but the
stations.
charging stations are coming in.
Yeah, and the second thing is perceived distance limitations. And
Yeah.
again, if you're going to be able to recharge while you're getting there, that's no longer a problem.
Yeah, especially for example, if you have a Tesla and you go to a Tesla charging station, you can get a free charge.
free.
And you can very conveniently find these things at restaurants.
And the other problem is it's a lack of awareness of EVs and how they work. So
Yes.
people are really not sure what they actually are.
Yeah, well, we'll see more and more
But
of
they're
them.
going to find out.
Yes, they
They're
will.
going to find out.
Meantime, I'd like to be able to afford an electric bike, but that's a pie in the sky thing for me. Okay,
Well, there's a guy in Brattleboro who's working on exactly that.
Dave Kahn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
and you may very well be able to afford an electric bike.
Wow, what a concept. Okay, I do ride a bike, by the way. It's what I do.
But it's not electric.
It's not electric. When I'm being lazy, I ride a bike. When I'm not being lazy,
You walk.
I will walk. Yeah. Just got a note coming up saying President Carter needed surgery for cancer in the brain.
Oh, no. He's not long for this world.
I don't think so. He had it. I think it was in his liver.
Yeah.
And well, he's getting old. Best ex-president I've seen.
Now that we don't have him, I really respect him. I didn't Once realized what he was when he was there, but he was a good guy.
Yeah, and he had a brother who had a Billy Beer named after him. Okay, we're up to Wednesday, August 19th. EchoBusiness.com. It probably surprises nobody to learn that coal produces more of the world's electricity than any other fuel. But many would be surprised to learn that renewables have taken second place.
That is surprising.
Electric generations from renewable sources have overtaken natural gas to become the second largest source of electricity worldwide, the International Energy Agency has announced. Now, I should point out that it is nowhere near second in the United States, where we have lots and lots of natural gas.
We're talking worldwide.
This is worldwide.
Got a picture up here.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you finish what you were thinking.
Natural gas worldwide is not cheap. It's only cheap in the United States. Yes.
Yeah, that picture, I don't know where that picture's taken, but there's a vast solar array.
Yes. With wind
Below
turbines.
it, there's another solar array.
Yes.
And then all the way down to the sea, there's a whole string of windmills.
Yes, that's right. It's an interesting
Don't know where
picture.
that is, but it's an interesting. I bet it's in India.
Well, you never can tell. Yeah, okay. Our next item.
Well, let's see, is there any takeaway here?
Oh, okay.
In 2014, solar photovoltaic power overtook solid biofuels.
Yes.
That's coal.
That's
really. Well, it's not coal.
No, that's not coal.
Used
that's
in power
wood.
plants that burn biomass, like Burlington.
Yep.
Become the second largest source of non-hydro renewable electricity in OECD countries of Europe. What's OECD?
I looked that up and I've forgotten.
They're using too many acronyms.
They
here.
are
I can't
indeed.
keep up.
I think that's the largest developed countries. It's like the 21 largest developed countries or something.
Basically, European Common Market.
The G21.
Yeah.
Well, we could name it that. I might be wrong about that.
In that same year, electricity generated by coal reached its highest level yet.
Yes.
At almost 10,000 terawatt hours.
Wow.
Now, this is worldwide.
Yeah.
But that's a lot.
That's a lot of power.
Representing 41% of global energy production. And the growth in coal generation was driven by non-OECD countries.
Yes.
So this is like the second and third world.
Yes. They're
What's
talking
the second
about.
world, anyhow?
I don't know. I think that's. I think that's me.
I think it used to mean the Soviet Union.
I don't know.
I think we were the first world, Soviet Union was the second world, and the third world was what we now call developing countries.
And the fourth world?
I'm not sure there is one.
I bet it's
we're back to Scotland.
Yeah. Energy Voice. Scottish Renewables has revealed the latest figures on how the sector fares in the country. Around 42,000 solar schemes, 2,557 small wind projects, 204 hydroelectric schemes are amongst some of the renewable methods being used to power homes and businesses. Inverurie in Aberdeenshire is Scotland's solar capital, with the town boasting about 10,250 watt solar panels. And by the way, I did look up the population. It's about 10,000. So they've got approximately one solar
panel
per person, at 250 watt. And if you figure, that might be 2,500 families, they've got about a kilowatt of solar per family on average.
Well, the Scots are moving. They're really pushing ahead with renewables.
They are indeed, and they don't use as much power as people in the United States do. When I lived in England, we lived in a house that had no refrigerator.
Oh yeah.
Nobody had a refrigerator. Nobody.
Put it on the windowsill or something.
The houses that nice houses had pantries. All of the pantries had windows that faced north, and you could open the window at night if you wanted to, But the house that we lived in, the temperature indoors never got above 64 all summer long. This was.
Well, yeah, Arno's like that too, really.
Yeah.
Air conditioning is very rare there.
Why would you air condition inside? The outside is air conditioned.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. Now we go to Bangor. Bangor is an interesting name. In Welsh, the NG combination is a single letter, but not in that name. It's Bangor, not Bangor.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bangor.
Bangor.
So it's a Welsh name.
It's a Welsh name, yeah, it's in northern Wales. The Northern Pass, this is important locally, the Northern Pass project would transmit power from hydroelectric plants in Quebec through New Hampshire. Eversource Operations, the firm proposing the 192-mile power line, unveiled a new plan. It includes burying an unprecedented 60 miles of transmission line through the most fragile areas. It would also reduce the transmission capacity from previous goals. This is from
Well, the backstory here is New Hampshire doesn't need the power.
No,
So they're just wheeling it down to Boston and Connecticut.
that's right.
And the people in New Hampshire are saying, what's in it for us?
Yeah,
And you're going to
especially
run it through some
considering.
of our finest
Yeah, they
area
were going to
here.
put it through Franconia Notch. What is that?
So this is a compromise. I mean,
Yes.
the people putting this thing in don't want to put in the more expensive underground cables, which in the long run are actually cheaper.
Yeah, they don't
But
break
they don't
down
want-
very often.
They don't. No, they don't. So this is a kind of a compromise, and something like this is going to go through
Right.
because there's money to be made wheeling that power,
Yep.
and the people that are going to profit by that have the ears of the politicians. So something's going to happen.
Right.
But the people in New Hampshire are saying, well, don't destroy our wilderness. Don't destroy our fine spots.
Yes.
So they're trying to figure out how to accommodate both. And
Yeah.
this may be it. It may be that they have to bury more than 60 miles.
Well, I
It's
think
happening over here in Lake Champlain. They're putting it under the river, under the lake.
they are indeed. And, as you say that, I wonder whether they couldn't put it under the Connecticut River.
I think they could.
But
It'd
it
be
would-
harder
it
because
would
it's
be
shallow,
harder.
They'd
Yeah.
have to dig it. And
That's
just
an
the
interesting point.
disruption of the
Yeah,
river
that's probably
might be enough
true.
to kill it.
That's right. It may be better to do
But
it.
it certainly could be done. And
Yeah.
you can bury these things under highways.
That's true.
Bury them along the shoulder, and they're accessible.
Yes, that's right.
And most of the highways go from where the power
And
is
if you
to
think
where you want
about
'em.
if you think about it, the shoulders, not the shoulders, but the grassy areas next to highways,
yeah.
very often could be places where you could have solar PVs put, and there
Yeah,
are
you
places
could.
where that's already happening. There's a couple of places I think in Massachusetts where they're doing that. Okay, done with the Banga Daily News. Banga.
Banga.
Banga, that's somebody I knew from Maine used to call it Banga. Okay, our last item of the day, Business Finance News tells us Royal Dutch Shell has been granted a permit to commence deep sea drilling in the Arctic Ocean. This, of course, from the U.S. government. What in the world is that?
I think it's an artist's conception, but it's a Royal Dutch Shell drilling rig in the
Oh,
Arctic.
man, that's depressing looking. Okay. Drilling shallow wells in the area has already begun, but a lack of documentation and precautionary equipment prevented drilling deep enough to strike oil. The U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management predicts the possibility of one or more oil spills in the next decade.
No, they're not going to have oil spills.
Absolutely not. I think we can prevent those oil spills in an absolute sense by preventing this from happening. But I don't think there's any other way. I just don't see how you can avoid. And the conditions in the Arctic, in the Arctic are so difficult. That,
Oh yeah, yeah.
No.
This isn't easy. You're wearing 2-inch thick gloves,
Yeah,
just
right.
to be able to manipulate stuff.
It's and it's a territory that I think is already overstressed. I don't know. Anyway, we have come to the end of our time, or at least we've come to the end of our list. Have you got anything else, Tom, that you want to?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay. Then maybe what we should do is say goodbye to everybody
that'll work.
with regrets.
Good Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise. We'll be back next week.
Yes, we'll be back next week, and we will try to entertain you with exciting and fun things. Maybe we'll find a comedian to come in. Okay.
Alrighty.
Have a nice week. Bye-bye.
And makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.